Hello everyone, my name is Dominic and today I will be... I decided to do this video because I really enjoyed doing my Nothing But Thieves tier list video, which you should check out, link in the description. I was also inspired by Brad Taste in Music, who also did a 21 Pilots album ranking video, and you can also find that link in the description below. Now just for some context so you sort of know where I'm coming from as I rank these albums, I am a massive 21 Pilots fan. They're arguably my favorite band. I've been listening to them since 2015. Half of the clothes in my closet say 21 Pilots on it. I have all their stuff on vinyl. I've been to a couple concerts of theirs. I even did a cover of their song Levitate, and I filmed a video to that, and if you want to check that out, that's also going to be in the description. The gist is that I am way too involved in this band. And obviously this is just my opinion. If you want to let me know your ranking down in the comments below, we can have a friendly discussion about it. I would love that. But first up, we are starting with...
Yeah, my kitchen sink. You don't know what that means.
Now this album is a bit of a weird one because it's not on streaming services, and I don't know, I kind of think of this album as just a glorified demo. Fans of this album seem to hold it in really high regard. I'm not sure why. It really does sound like a demo album. The songs that are on this album that eventually made their way onto Vessel sound better on Vessel, like 10 times better. So I honestly don't get the whole fascination with this album. I don't think it's nearly as polished as all of their other work, and it just feels like a collection of ideas rather than like a cohesive, well-produced, well-thought-out album. So for that reason, I am going to put it in D tier. Next up, we have... And this is a bit of a weird one in their discography because it was back when Josh wasn't in the band, I believe, and there were 3 band members. And it's a lot different from the stuff that they normally pump out, although I would say each of their albums is pretty different, but this one especially. It takes on more baroque and darker sounds, with a much greater emphasis on piano and ballads. That being said, there are some absolute bangers on this album, and some of 21 Pilots' best work is here. Taxicab, Trapdoor, Isle of Flightless Birds is a frickin' bop. And the lyricism on this album, for the most part, is really amazing. Although it does have its problems, production-wise, it's not the best. The drums sound really cheap on a lot of these tracks. You can tell when Josh joined the band that they put much greater emphasis on the percussion. And I don't know why, but Tyler Joseph has this really strange vocal delivery on a lot of these songs on the album. Like, he sometimes slips into like this weird British / indie singer accent where he's like trying too hard to have a quirky voice. I don't know. I just can't get behind Tyler's vocal delivery on a lot of the songs on this album. For now, I'm going to put it in B tier, but that could move around as I put other albums on the tier list. Alright, next up is... Vessel is a huge step up from Regional at best. It's a lot more colorful, the hooks are more memorable, and there's a lot more range in the sort of genres and styles that they pull from, and that's something that I love about 21 Pilots, whereas Self-Titled felt really concrete, which does play to its strengths. I think Vessel is a more unique listening experience because of all those different genres that it pulls from. That being said, I think the middle portion of Vessel tends to fall a little bit flat. I think the first half of Vessel is some of 21 Pilots' best work. They got Guns for Hands, Ode to Sleep, Migraine, stuff like that, is all front-loaded on the album. But as the album goes on, you get sort of the weaker tracks. Not that I don't like Fake You Out or Semi-Automatic, but they aren't nearly as strong as the songs on the first half. I also don't think Truce is that great of a closer. I know people really love that song, and I like it too, but I think Trees would have been a better closer for this album. Nevertheless, this album is fun, playful, and memorable. I do think it's better than Self-Titled, so I'm going to put Self-Titled at C for now and leave Vessel in B and see how I feel going forward. Next up, we got... This album seems to get a lot of hate from Clickies just because it was the album that got them popular and a lot of the songs are overplayed on the radio. But I think Ride is still one of my favorite 21 Pilots songs. Stressed Out, for as overplayed as it is, it's still a great song, and I think it's produced really well. The main thing going for me for this album is the concept and the extreme range of genres that they pull from. It doesn't always work perfectly, like Polarize. I don't think that's one of their strongest tracks. But when it does work, I think it works really well. Heavy Dirty Soul is an adrenaline rush of an opener. It's one of the best openers they've ever done. And Goner is an amazing closer, and everything in between feels like a wild rush of emotions. Each song is almost like looking at a different mental struggle that Tyler has to go through. And I like that that's sort of reflected in the album art where it's like separated into the circles. And there's a lot of imagery and metaphors in this album with Blurryface and what he represents. And I like that there's this loose concept running through the album that sort of ties it together. So even though there are these wide range of genres, I think it is still a really solid album. And while I also think the stronger tracks are more towards the beginning of the album, you have some absolute slappers towards the end, like Message Man, Not Today. This was the album that got me into 21 Pilots, so I really have a soft spot for it. And the hooks on this thing are so much sharper, and you can tell Tyler's songwriting got so much better between Vessel and Blurryface. And I know this is controversial, but I think Blurryface is better than Vessel, so I'm going to put that in A tier. I know, put your pitchforks away, but I don't think everything on Vessel really aged all that well. I don't think some of the production choices aged particularly well, especially the more electro-pop moments. If I wanted to listen to electro-pop, I could listen to bands that do that way better than 21 Pilots. Whereas Blurryface, I think it holds up better now than Vessel did. Alright, next up we have... And Trench is going straight to S tier. It is easily the best 21 Pilots album. It is their most polished, the best lyricism, by far the best production. Their most mature album, the best concept. The story is so immersive. I dressed up as this album for Halloween. I could have done that for Blurryface, but I think the world that they created for Trench is so much more immersive. Tyler just sounds way more serious on this project, which may not be for everyone. I know people like the lighthearted nature or tone of 21 Pilots, even though their lyrics tend to be pretty dark. But I think in this case, the sonic palette on this album matches the lyrics way better. And I think it works towards just the general aesthetic of this thing. I think Jumpsuit might be their best song ever. Levitate has Tyler's best rapping performance by far. Morph is silky smooth. Chlorine's hook is earwormy as fuck and like nothing else on any of their discography. It's just an immaculate record. I can't say enough about Trench. It's like night and day, easily the best 21 Pilots album. And last but not least, we have... a lot of mixed opinions about this one, and unfortunately I fall somewhere in the meh range. I think this album would have been way better if it didn't have Formidable and Bounce Man. Formidable is an extremely forgettable song and doesn't have really anything compelling going for it. And Bounce Man is probably one of their worst songs ever, if not the worst 21 Pilots song. The hook is absolutely horrid. It makes me want to tear my ears out. It sounds awful. But at the same time, there are songs that I absolutely adore on this album, and I love the aesthetic that they were trying to go for, and in some ways they do achieve it. And the whole idea of this album is that it's sort of propaganda by the Dima Corporation. If you don't know 21 Pilots, this isn't going to make any sense to you, but I like that they continued the concept from Trench, and in some ways it does work. I like that No Chances is so unapologetically a Bishop's chant. The closer Redecorate leaves me breathless every time. It's an amazing outro. Good Day took a while for me to warm up to because I don't really listen to sort of that Broadway, like cutesy style music. But I ended up really loving it. And Shy Away was my most played song of 2021. I absolutely adore that song. Mulberry Street makes me feel good no matter what mood I'm in. And overall, if I need a serotonin boost, this album is good for it. Granted, I would have to take out a couple of the tracks in the middle of the track listing. It's not as immaculate as, say, Trench, not nearly as immaculate. It's not as consistent as Blurryface and Vessel. I think it has the same amount of duds as Self-Titled does. So in that case, I'm going to put Scaled and Icy in C tier. It's a good album. I don't think any 21 Pilots album is necessarily bad, maybe besides Regional at best. I just think Self-Titled and Skilled and Icy are the most spotty of their albums. So that about does it. If you guys like the video, leave a like, subscribe, let me know if you want to see more tier lists like this in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one.